Okay, it's time now for Truth or Fake here on France 24. This is our daily fact-checking segment. Today I'm joined by Vedika Bahl. Vedika, earlier on in the bulletin we were talking about how Western countries are setting new travel restrictions on passengers arriving from China. That's amidst criticism that Beijing is downplaying a new COVID outbreak. Just tell us what you're seeing about the situation there and whether indeed it's being exaggerated by the media.
Yes, Tom, in the last few days, a report by journalist Andy Borum for the Shanghai Daily has been circulating quite heavily online. Now, the Shanghai Daily is one of Chinese state media's only English language media outlets, and segments of this report have been spread by several anti-vax accounts, as well as accounts that have been flagged for sharing misinformation. So let's take a little look at that. So if we look at this, one of the tweets that I found here, this has over 377,000 views, as well as thousands of retweets and quotes and likes. The account name is Rage Against the Vaccine, which does give us kind of an idea of the rhetoric of this account. And this person has attached the report by the journalist Andy Borum and says that this guy's in Shanghai and says that there are no Chinese in line in the emergency rooms, no people dying on the streets or in crowded hospitals, but they want us to believe the lie in the West that COVID is starting again. So very strong words there, criticising the Western media's reporting of coronavirus in China. If we take a look at another internet user, this person has been flagged previously for misinformation online, according to their accounts. Again, over 200,000 views, and similarly with the tweets and the likes. And they also have said that there are no queues in the emergency room, according to Andy Borum's report. There are no people dying in the streets, but we are shown tons of disaster images of China online. Now, this is very interesting because if we take a look at the report made by Andy Borum himself, this is the report there. It is titled Debunking Shanghai COVID Lies. Now, in this report, which is dated on the 20th of December, that's very important because even in the report, he does go on to state that this is the date today and I'm going to film on this date. And in this, he goes from clinic to clinic in Shanghai to kind of prove to people that the resurgence of coronavirus in China is being exaggerated. Now, as we can see here, again, he's dated it. He said that he's at a clinic and he says that this is not many people and that this is hugely outstated the numbers, maybe about 10 people, and that there are very few people there for assistance. Now, the reason that those tweets that we saw earlier are extremely misinformed is that because in this report, Borum does go on to state that he's not actually at a hospital. Whilst it is a medical centre, it is what is called a fever clinic. He does state that here and that this is a fever clinic, and also later on we can actually see it written in English, fever clinic, just there. Now, fever clinics in China, there's a couple of thousand of them, and they are set up for those with fevers, sort of mild symptoms, high temperatures, and it's also kind of used as a dispensary where you can find and acquire medication that cannot be found in pharmacies, so not a hospital. So a very, very short queue outside a fever clinic doesn't essentially show us that Shanghai's hospitals are operating normally because of the coronavirus.
Okay, now you mentioned, as did the reporter there, that this was all filmed on the 20th of December. I mean, quite a lot of time has passed. We're now, the 3rd of January. And there are concerns, aren't there? There's been a fresh wave since that, and it's getting worse.
Yes, indeed. And many of those tweets that were attached with that report were acting as if this was posted in the last few days. But that's as if the situation has not changed considerably since then. If we interestingly look just a few days before Borum's report, which was on the 20th, this is a BBC article from the 17th of December. And very interestingly, Shanghai's authorities had ordered most schools to start operating remotely. And that kind of is an indication to us that things had already begun to spread at the time. We can also kind of look to other journalists reporting in the region for proof that the emergency services were maybe a little bit different than what he's saying. If we take a look at these images posted by Antoine Morel, who is France 24's Shanghai correspondent, he shows us images that are very, very different to the ones we saw outside those fever clinics. He says that the hospitals are overwhelmed and at some point it was difficult to walk in the corridor as there are so many people. And if we take a look at a video that he posted, we can indeed see that it is packed out with with relatives and patients of the like. And this is only a few days after Borum posted his report showing very, very few people there. If we also take a look at this, the same journalist, Antoine, he also posted outside of a fever clinic. And this is just 4 days after that December 20th report. So in just 4 days, we can see that even in the fever clinics, there is a stark difference in the amount of people. If we want to take a look at even more recent pictures, these are images posted by French journalist Frédéric Schaeffer, and these are from just yesterday. And they also show an extremely overwhelmed emergency situation in the hospital. So that's the situation has really changed in that time, Tom.
Yeah, and we've been saying here on France 24 that funeral homes, crematoriums are completely overwhelmed with demand, meaning that a lot of people have died. Now, just going back to the journalists we were just talking about there, the one who was reporting for the Shanghai Morning News, I think it was called, Andy Borum is his name. He's got a bit of a track record, hasn't he, for defending China?
Yes, he's actually been awarded for it with a government medal. This is him, very proud of his award there. This is an award by the Shanghai government. And in his own words on his social media, he says that he is trying to counter the Western anti-China narrative. And he is very complimentary of government efforts on his social media. Very interestingly, however, just 1 day after posting that report where he showed us those empty fever clinics that he said was a Shanghai COVID lie, this is just 1 day after, he does backpedal, and he says that district and city level hospital fever clinics are facing sustained pressure amid a surge in the number of patients in Shanghai. So that is quite a significant U-turn there, just 1 day after initially claiming that there was no one sick from COVID-19 in Shanghai. Now, this all comes as the World Health Organization urges China to be more transparent about its data, as despite all of those images that we've seen in the last couple of days posted online from journalists, Beijing only reported 3 coronavirus deaths on Monday.
Okay, that tells a lot, doesn't it? Thank you very much indeed, Vedika Bahl. Thanks for today's edition of Truth or Fake.